All right, so it's pretty late at night, but I still want to make a video talking about how to read the Bible because there's a lot of people that I know want to get into the Bible, but it's something that's pretty hard to get into because of how long it is and how many books there are. And me personally, I've received a couple compliments from people about how I can remember scriptures and how much I've learned in such little time. So I'm gonna give everyone the process that I did to do that and learn very easily. All right, so the first thing that I did was I started off with the Gospels, and that's a really common way of approaching the Bible now recently because of, first of all, we're under the new covenant. We're under the covenant that Jesus Christ created, and in my opinion, that's the best thing to learn about, and learning about what Jesus did for us and the reason that he was here on earth and what he did here on earth. And the best way to read the Gospels is a Bible plan that my friend found, that my whole friend group did as a group. And so I'm going to put on the screen here. It's the Bible recap. It takes 45 days. But the cool thing about this one is that the chapters that you read each day all take place at the same time or close to the same time. So everything you're reading is in chronological order. And for me, it's the fastest way to read the Gospels. And you don't even have to take 45 days to do it. You can take longer or you can take less. And that's what I really like about that one. And then once you're done with that, I would really recommend to move on and then go back all the way to Genesis. And once you read Genesis, you really realize how a lot of the Old Testament is actually pointing towards Jesus and how much a lot of it's actually talking about Jesus. And for every chapter you read of the Old Testament, you should read one of the New Testament. So, because for me, if you start off with the Gospels and then you just go to the Old Testament, then it's going to take you so long to actually go back into the New Testament, which is filled with a lot of letters. It's filled with history of the early church. So I feel like that's really important to also learn about that because the apostles give great advice on how to live a Christian life. And although, yes, the Old Testament is very useful, and neither the New Testament or the Old Testament is over each other, but there is more relevant information in the New Testament rather than the Old Testament because that was for the Jewish people. And when reading the Bible, I just want to, talk about something real quick. And it's whenever you're reading the Bible, it's important to read it from a different lens than such a literal way of reading the Bible, because the Bible is not a book that is always literal. And it's not a book of science, which is the main complaint that a lot of people have about the Bible, that, oh, this is not scientifically true. But that's not the point of the Bible. The Bible is not supposed to be a scientific book. It's supposed to be a book of poetry, a book of truth, and a book of wisdom. So really read the Bible from that lens of not taking everything so literally. And a lot of it is figurative language. And once you read from that lens and be open to what you're reading in the Bible, a lot of it will be hard to understand because you're new to reading the Bible. But I promise you that the more that you read the Bible, actually the better you get at reading the Bible, which is something that's really cool. Another thing would be to if I were you, I would invest in a study Bible, the Bible that really guides you when it comes to when it comes to reading. So you can find underlying messages that are in the scripture, because sometimes it's hard to find those when you're a first time reader. So a study Bible will help you find those and look deeper into the meaning of certain chapters and certain verses. And a lot of people also ask what since there's so many translations of the Bible, what Bible should I get? What Bible should I read? Which one will be the best for me? So for Catholics, I'm a Roman Catholic. I would recommend anything that's RSV. So NRSV, RSV, normal RSV, RSV second edition is really good. That's personally the one that I use. And if you're not a Catholic, you can use for a new reader, I would choose the ESV, the NIV, and I believe it's the NLT. Those are all pretty good. No, NIT, New International Version, New International Translation. So all of those translations are good. A lot of people like to use the King James Bible, but I personally wouldn't recommend the King James Bible. One, because it's language from 500 years ago. We don't speak English from that time, and also it's not very accurate. A lot of scholars and theologians have looked into the King James Bible and come to the conclusion that it's not the most accurate. So I would recommend anything, personally, anything, and this is not me just being biased, but anything that's approved by the Catholic Church, I would go from there and just scroll through the Bible app. There's so many translations. Keep looking into that and try and find a translation that feels comfortable for you to read. And when it comes to reading scripture, something that helped me personally, remember the scripture, because sometimes it's easy to read it, but for it to stay in your head and to really stay with you is something that's harder. And something that really helped me was personally journaling. So there were 3 things that I think you guys should journal. One of those being underlying symbolic messages in the chapters and verses. So if you can come across one of those, if you're able to spot something that signifies something bigger than just what's being said, write that down. Other thing is an analogy that you can make to your life, or how you can apply something to your life. And then 3 is just anything that stands out to you, anything that you find cool. And I promise you, when you write those 3 things down, or just literally anything, it'll really stay with you, because writing things down is scientifically proven to help things stay in your head. That's what we take notes, stuff like that. So those are all the tips I have for reading the Bible. And if anyone else has any tips, leave them in the comments below. And thank you for watching.